Shalom, this is Amonute Tayac of Piscataway, your friendly neighborhood Shuman, Sophia Spiritualite, the AmaruKhan Miriyam. And we're here with another video. This is going to be another lecture style video because it's just too much information to show every single thing I got from every single place. Plus there's some stuff I want to read. So we're just going to go with this. I want to get the information down into the ley line. This is not a direct response to a comment one of the beloved sisters made on my last video, Sister Mika, but this will respond to the comment of what has voting ever done for us. And it's not going to be obvious how this comes together because I didn't realize until I finished taking all my notes that that's the point of this, for us to understand. So the title of this video is the 50-year ritual, the 50-year Jubilee reset ritual to delay the Negro. Okay. We're going to go back in time. Let's start with the very first Super Bowl, which was held on January the 15th, 1967. This was the Kansas City Chiefs against, hold on. I didn't write that one down. I know it was, the Chiefs versus somebody. Hold on, let's see. I gotta get this part. We want to know where this started, right? Okay. So this was, the first one was actually called the very first AFL NFL World Championship game, also called Super Bowl One. It was held in the January the 15th, 1967 at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum in Los Angeles, California. It was the Green Bay Packers versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and the score was 35-10. The Kansas City scored 10 points. They scored that in the second quarter, and they did not score nothing for the whole rest of the game. It was a total blowout because it was 35-10. The coach of the Green Bay Packers was Vince Lombardi. The Packers were expected to win, and they did. They blew the Chiefs out. This was the very start of this, not the start. This was the start of this ritual cycle that we're in now. Because the Chiefs' their laws required a sacrifice. So a little over a year later, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on April the 4th, 1968. This to me was their attempt to let the quote-unquote chief of the Negroes be killed, basically. And they used this assassination to hold the Chiefs back from winning any Super Bowl. So even though it was the guy, Lamar Hunt of the Kansas City, the owner of the Chiefs, who came up with the name, his team was not allowed to win any Super Bowl until the that Jubilee cycle was over, which was in 2019. So the 2020 Super Bowl, which was for the 2019 season, you saw the Kansas City Chiefs win. However, they was not supposed to win because, anyway, that's a good question. They weren't supposed to win. We know they weren't supposed to win. But why? I guess because the daughter had returned and their time of doing these kind of rituals were up. So our quote-unquote king of the Negroes was taken out. Something else that was going on was at the time, this is 1967, remember? We're talking about 1968. That's when 50 years before this last whatever is going on. In 1968, this was the height of the civil rights movement, okay? So we also have the greatest, which was Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali was in trouble because in 1966, he refused to be drafted into the military. He did not fight for 4 years. So he was delayed for 4 years. Okay? He was a high-profile figure of racial pride for the civil rights movement, and he protested the Vietnam War. An interesting thing about Muhammad Ali is that his great-grandfather was the actual image of the enslaved Negro. That's why it was so important for him to give his name up, his quote-unquote slave name, because for him it literally was a slave name. His literal great-grandfather was the image of the slave. Like there's a statue of Lincoln where there's a slave that's like, trying to get freedom or whatever. His grandfather is literally the image of that. He was who the sculptor used to portray the image of the enslaved person. So this is how Muhammad Ali ties into this, and his nickname was the greatest. Now, on August 11th of 1970, he was granted a license to fight, and his first fight was Joe Frazier, which was March 8th, 1971. It was called the Fight of the Century. So he called Muhammad Ali called Frazier a dumb tool of the white establishment, and he used the rope-a-dope strategy to absorb all the blows. One of the blows was so hard that the referee was like, "No man, that's as hard as any man can blow." And Ali was back on his feet in 3 seconds. So we have references to the three here, like the three witnesses, the 3 days of darkness, the 3 days between resurrection, the Trinity, lots of threes in this. So if you don't believe that this is a ritual that they do every 50 years, let's look 50 years prior, which would have been 1918. Now, we got the start of this because we're talking about 50 years forward from 1968 is 2018. Okay, and so they had to wait after the 50 years, total 50 years are done, and then try to reestablish this cycle by the Kansas City Chiefs winning the Super Bowl in 2019. Okay, so that's how this goes. Super Bowl was for the 2018 season, actually, I believe. I think I got it backwards in the beginning. I'll go back and check. But the dates are close enough, you'll understand. So, 50 years prior to 1968 is 1918. So, in 1918 of May, there was lynchings in southern Georgia. And if you remember, we were talking about southern Georgia because Hurricane Idalia, I have a video about Hurricane Idalia because to be honest, that hurricane was totally directed by the heavenly host. There's no other way to describe that because my child was out of the country in the Dominican Republic at the time, and the hurricane sat still until she got back into the country, and then it started to move again, that's it. No one could understand why it was sitting still, but I knew why. It's because my child was out of the country in the middle of the Caribbean Sea, and they weren't going to risk my child, so they let her come back, and then the hurricane moved forward. It was extremely destructive hurricane. I did videos on it. Hebrew Rose of Jericho did videos on it. talking about all the destruction. It cut through some of the sundown towns, but one of the places it hit was just north of the Florida line, where there was this particular lynching, this whole event that was this southern Georgia that I'm talking about. This is where this event took place, and that city was completely tore apart. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I'll repost that video because it has some relevance. So let me tell you about this lynching. Okay. The lynching was of Hazel Turner. There was two on May 18th, which, if you don't know, May 18th is Haitian Flag Day, and it's also the day that Moses was born. So on May 18th, Hazel Turner was lynched for some reason that makes no sense. And then his wife found out. Her name was Mary, as in Mother Mary, as a Miriyam, another one of our women. She demanded something be done. So instead of them actually doing something, they hung her. And what they did was they hung her upside down. They doused her with gasoline and oil. She was pregnant, so they cut the belly. They cut the baby from her belly, and they stomped the baby to death, and they shot her after they had already hung her. Okay, this is what they did to one of our women, and this was in May of 1918. So again, they to prevent a Simeon Toku style thing, they did this whole ritual. So you may be thinking, well, that's just two sets of 50 years. That can't possibly be continue back, does it? Well, in 1868, you have this is when, just after the Civil War, which ended in 1865, and this is when the Freedmen's Bureau was established. Now, this is where this whole issue of voting comes up, because in 1868, Frederick Douglass supported Ulysses S. Grant in the election, and Ulysses S. Grant won. So if you're not familiar with Frederick Douglass, remember, he is Lincoln's doppelganger as far as I'm concerned. Him and Lincoln must have looked exactly alike, because they went around the country pretending to look different or whatever, getting blacks to go in and vote, and that's how they got Lincoln elected, so that they could do this war. And the whole Frederick Douglass was seen as the leader of the Negroes. Like, he was literally the leader of the Negroes, right? And I don't know what kind of sorcery he was into, but as I have mentioned many times, he's from where my people are from, in Southern Maryland. So I can only imagine what that is. Not in Southern Maryland. It's called the Eastern Shore of Maryland, out by Salisbury. He's actually from Tayac, which is exactly my people are literally from Tayac. So anyway, that's a whole nother thing. And it's not a lot of people out there, because it's literally the country. And in the time when he was growing up, it was really the country. There was more cattle. It was probably more tobacco crops than anything in that area. There weren't big groups of Negroes from that area. So yeah, this is, it is what it is. So let's talk a little bit about Ulysses S. Grant and his top general. So Ulysses S. Grant led the Union Army. He worked with the radical Republicans to protect African Americans, quote unquote, during the Reconstruction. Now we're going to talk about Tecumseh, but I'm going to get to Tecumseh in a second. Let me go back. So the thing about Grant is that he actually forced Lee to surrender in 1866, and he was elected in 1868. Now, you may remember earlier on my channel, I did a video where I read the Civil Rights Act of 1866. This is the act that gave African American so-called citizenship. This made everyone citizens. It also gave us equal access to every single rule and regulation that everyone else uses, meaning they're not allowed to use laws that we can't use. They're not allowed to do things that we can't do. So I will also go back and share that video so you can take a listen to it and understand what we are entitled to under this act. But he was he was elected in 1868, like I said, and he supported the Fifth Amendment. He prosecuted the Ku Klux Klan, who we talked about yesterday, and he completely restored the Union. At the time of his death, Grant was the most popular American symbol of national unity. He was the most popular American. He was a symbol of national unity. He won 2 of his elections. He lost a third of he lost his third election. But he lost his third election because 1, he had throat cancer, and number 2, they had messed with his money so that he didn't have the money to run. So if you're wondering what the Fifth Amendment is, it prohibits the federal government from denying the right to vote. So this is why voting is important, because this guy, Ulysses S. Grant, literally fought a whole war to get the ability for our people to vote. This is why our people vote. This is why our people take it seriously. Now, there was a curse put on that vote. So let me tell you about Tecumseh. So, William Tecumseh Sherman. I'm sure a lot of you had heard of Sherman before. Okay. He was the one who led the Reconstruction efforts. Okay. He wrote an order to William Tecumseh Sherman. He wrote Special Field Order number 15, which ordered the settlement of 40,000 freed slaves and refugees. They called Tecumseh Sherman Uncle Billy. This Special Field Order number 15, was the basis of the 40 acres and a mule that everyone talks about they were promised after slavery. This is where they got this from. This order that this general signed. Okay. And this is so Sherman, his name was Tecumseh. Okay. He was named after the chief of the Shawnees, who is Tecumseh. And they gave him the name William as a baptized name because he was baptized on St. William's, one of these saints' feast days. But literally everyone only knew him as Tecumseh. They didn't know him as William. They knew him as Tecumseh. So they called him Uncle Billy, which sounds like something our people would do. But William was his baptized name, not his birth name. His birth name was Tecumseh. Okay. And so this was the curse that he put when he was close to the end of his life, and they had pushed him out of the military because he was trying to fight for black people to be treated fairly in voting. This was the curse that he put on them. He said, let the Negro vote. Count his vote honestly. Otherwise, so sure as there is a God in heaven, you will have another war, more cruel than the last, when torch and dagger will take the place of muskets of well-ordered battalions. This is my belief that when the Hebrew Rose of Jericho told us to do the shofars and jars, that was the curse to them. Because it says torch and dagger. Well, what is a broken glass with a candle in it? It's a torch and it's a dagger. And that's what Simeon did. And so literally you have Tecumseh telling them, you guys are going to get fought back with something supernatural if you don't count the Negroes' vote honestly. And that has been the problem. It's not that the votes don't count. It's that who counts the votes matters far more than if the votes count or not. And that's what I was going to say that in my response anyway. But this has been a huge issue, because one thing that I've seen in my experience is that if the people are, if the politicians are worried about their seats, then they will do what needs to be done. When they're not worried about their seats, they do whatever they want. So when you have people who don't participate because of whatever reason, then they're not worried about their seats. So what ends up happening is they do whatever they want. The politicians are beholden to their voters. And just like you guys are going to see, I mean, you can sit this one out. You could, I'm not telling and nobody what to do. All I am saying is that this is the message that I was given. And so I can only give you the message. If you don't believe it, don't like it, don't do it, whatever, that has nothing to do with me. I just have to deliver the message, and tell you what's going to happen, because it's obvious that we're in the middle of a prophecy, whether we like it or not. So either you can go along with the prophecy and get the rewards, or you don't go along with the prophecy and you don't get the rewards. That has nothing to do with, that's a personal choice that you got to make between, now and November. So it's my belief that or rather, it's my understanding that, or what I have seen, talking about these politicians, is when they are worried about their constituents, they start to get some act right in them. So what example do I have for that? A lot of people who follow me, I guess, don't follow politics. So I'll just tell you a few examples of this. There's an individual. Which one should I talk about? Let's talk about the Speaker of the House. There's an individual who's the Speaker of the House right now. His last name is Johnson. I think his name is Michael Johnson. And so he's actually having a real problem right now because, let's go back a few months. There was a Speaker of the House named Kevin McCarthy. When Kevin McCarthy cut a deal with his party, quote unquote, his party, the Republicans, to actually do certain things that the Republicans were demanding, because the Republicans have a majority in the House. So what happened was Kevin McCarthy ignored his people, totally ignored them, and cut a deal with the Democrats in order to get funding for something, keep the government open, some crap like that, right? And so you have one of the quote-unquote MAGA leaders, which is Matt Gaetz, who led this thing to unseat McCarthy, and it was successful. That never happens. So there is proof that votes do matter, because there's a lot of phone banking going on where on the Republican side, people are calling their Congress people and telling them, hey, we want the January 6th tapes released. Hey, we want this release. We want that release. What are you doing? And so what they have people on the Republican side, as a result of the MAGA movement, who literally call their Congress people every single day. This is why they had to get rid of Rush Limbaugh, because people would come on Rush Limbaugh and they would say, hey, Rush, tell your people, call, their Congress people because of X, Y, and Z. All the Congress people would call. All the people would call, and the Congress would get inundated with calls from people telling them what to vote no on something or to vote yes on something. So you may not see it in your particular area, but that is because you might be in a blue area. The blue areas are don't work the same as the red areas. The red areas are extremely afraid of MAGA people. They're terrified of them because they see that MAGA people will organize. There's an individual right now. His name is Scott Pressler. He's going around all kinds of places registering Republicans to vote. And not like Obama did this, with the Organizing for America, but they had a lot of money behind them. This is one guy who's doing it by himself, number one. Number two, he has a whole network now through all 50 states. I think he's been to every state now, and they're registering Republicans. So they have a whole grassroots effort going on right now to get Republicans who are going to be held to the fire elected. Because when you are elected by the people and you know you were elected by the people, you are beholden to the people. A lot of African Americans, quote unquote Negroes, have never experienced that, because when these people get elected, they weren't elected by us. They were elected by the computers. They were elected by the systems. They were elected because it was their turn. Whatever the case may be, look at Marilyn Mosby. I mean, look at Fannie Willis. I mean, Fannie Willis is a perfect example. She was running. I just saw a little clip of an interview. She was running against someone who was corrupt. And she said, I'm running because we don't need any more corruption and no more sex scandals in the Attorney General's office. And she literally did the same exact thing as her predecessor. The same, as soon as she had the ability to do it, she did the same thing. That's what happens with our people. We get somebody in there, we're like, yeah, they're going to do for us. They end up doing the exact same thing. Speaking of that, let me mention, I come from the richest black county in this country, but we were the poorest people in the whole county. The only reason we had Christmas and anything in food really is because my family lived everywhere, and so we could go to families' houses to eat. And because of the Angel Tree program, if you're familiar with that. If not for that, we would never have Christmas gifts. I wouldn't have coats or book bags, school supplies, anything. It was because people had to give it to us. We lived in a house that was over 100 years old. I'm from down a dirt road. I am from the poorest of the poor. So I talk about these things as an observer, not as an experiencer. You know, I should mention that because I don't really talk about it because I don't really see it's relevant. But it's not because I come from money. I don't come from money. I come from poor, extremely poor, more poor and destitute than most people who watch my channel. However, I lived around all these rich people, so I was forced to observe their lives. I was forced to observe people who had air conditioning, who had cable in their house, who had food to eat and could go to the grocery store. We didn't have that. So, like, you know, being from the richest black county don't mean nothing when you treat your poor people like crap. When you treat your poor people like they're valueless. And that's how I was treated. That's how I grew up. I had to find my value from on the inside of me. I knew I was smarter than these other kids that was around me. I knew I was more dedicated. I knew I could speak well. I knew I had more ability to make and create. I knew that, but I knew it from the inside, not from what anybody was telling me on the outside, because on the outside it could not be proven, because you could see the way that we were living with, you know, you could see the way we were living and you just wouldn't understand it. You wouldn't understand it. My mother did that because she knew that we were the most important. So instead of getting a government job, she worked at the school making nothing so that she could keep an eye on us. Best experience, most valuable experience that a child can have is knowing that their parent is right there. The teachers are not going to act crazy when the parents are right there. Now, I was a good student, so that wasn't a problem, but it's like a double check. Hey, anything going on with my kid? I don't have to worry about him, but you know that I'm right there if something does go down. So, and also she protected a lot of the kids who are from the neighborhood. That's neither here nor there. So that's what it is. Like, the reason why our people have not experienced any of this is because there are no candidates who actually are elected by you. And when you do have candidates that are elected by you, they get corrupted as soon as they get into office, because they offer them money, whatever, this and that, whatever little perks they can offer them so that they can get them to renege on their contract with the people. On the Republican side, they've already gone through their revolution. They can't do that on the Republican side because of the whole MAGA thing. And even MAGA is not about Trump, because when Trump says crazy stuff, the people get on the internet and they complain to him and he changes his position. Y'all, you would never understand that if you weren't watching in real time like I was. He would say stuff, people would get on the internet and fire him up, and he would be like, "Oh, I got to change my mind on this." He would all the time. That's why it looked like he was always contradicting himself, is because his base was reflecting something back to him that he didn't say, and he had to fix it real quick because the base will turn on him. The base will turn on him right now. If he starts talking crazy stuff, the base will turn on him. You have no idea the type of people you're dealing with. You're dealing with people like this Tecumseh, Sherman. These people will turn on you. You have no idea how quickly these people will turn on Trump if he starts saying crap. And that's the reason why he's not deviating from his what he's supposed to say, because his voter base would turn on him, and that's a guaranteed fact. Whether you understand it or believe it or not. So you may think, well, okay, that's 2018, 1968, 1918, 1868. You can't go back further than that, can you? Well, actually, in 1818, there was a new American flag that was put out, and the flag had 20 stars, 13 stripes, and 20 stars. And at this time, you had the Democratic Republican political party. This is literally the time when the Democrats and the Republicans were the same party. So I said in my video yesterday that they are two wings off the same bird. That is a fact. This goes back to 1818. So this would be circling a prophecy that comes from that time, echoing some information from that time. There was one political party. It was there's literally one political party in 1818. And the flag was a new flag because they had a different flag during the Revolution. So this was it went from a 15-star flag to a 20-star flag, okay? So you may be thinking, that's got to be it. Like, you can go back further than that. Well, in 1768, now this is basically before the country started, because the country did not start until 1776. So in 1768, there was a song that was written by an individual called the Liberty Song. I'm going to read this song to you because it is so powerful. Here we go. The Liberty Song. And it's written to another song called Heart of Oak, which is a British naval song, okay? So it says, "Come join hand in hand, brave Americans all, and rouse your bold hearts at fair liberty's call. No tyrannous act shall suppress your just claim, or stain with dishonor America's name. In freedom we're born, and in freedom we'll live. Our purses are ready. Steady, friends, steady. Not as slaves, but as free men our money will give. Our worthy forefathers, let's give them a cheer. To climates unknown did courageously steer. Through oceans to deserts for freedom they came, and dying bequeathed us their freedom and fame." How sweet, this another verse. Then he goes back to the chorus. "In freedom we're born, in freedom we'll live. Our purses are ready. Steady, friends, steady. Not as slaves, but as freedmen our money will give. How sweet are the labors that free men endure, that men shall enjoy the sweet profit secure. No more sweet labors Americans know, if British shall reap what Americans sow. Their generous bosoms all dangers despise, so wisely their birthrights they prize. Will keep what they gave, will piously keep, nor frustrate their toils on the land and the deep. The tree their own hands had to liberty reared, they lived to behold, growing strong and revered. With transport they cried, now our wishes we gain, for our children shall gather the fruits of our pain. Swarms of placemen and pensioners soon will appear, like locusts deforming the charms of the year. Suns, suns, vainly will rise, showers vainly descend. if we are to drudge for what others shall defend. Then join hand in hand, brave Americans all. By uniting we stand, by dividing we fall. In so righteous a cause, let us hope to succeed. For heaven approves of each generous deed. All ages shall speak with amaze and applause. Of courage, of the courage will show in support of our laws. To die we can bear, but to serve we disdain. For shame is to freedom more dreadful than pain. This bumper I crown for our sovereign's health, and this for Britannia's glory and wealth, that wealth and that glory immortal may be, if she is but just, and if we are but free. Listen, that was written by one of our people, I guarantee. It says it was written by John Dickinson. And John Dickinson is called the penman of the revolution for his 12 letters from a farmer in Pennsylvania. And he wrote this song, the Liberty Song. He was also the president of Pennsylvania and succeeded by Benjamin Franklin. He was the president of Delaware, succeeded by John Cook. He was in the Continental Congress. He was a Democratic Republican against parties. He was actually from he's from Talbot County, which is in Maryland, of course, towards the Eastern Shore. So I'm familiar with Talbot County. So you have every 50 years a ritual was done. Let's starting with this 1868, this Liberty Song. This was a ritual done not necessarily to take down the natives, but to, to cry for freedom from the British who had come in to take over. So they used that to get the freedom. 1776 happened after that. Then in 1818, you have the new American flag that was put up. That was a signature of, this, continuing ritual. Then in 1868, you had the Freedmen's Bureau with the Ulysses S. Grant election. It's almost like 1768, 1818, 1868. Things were going so well for our people. Like all of this British incursion was getting removed. And then in 1918, they co-opted it with the lynchings because that's when all the crazy stuff started to happen. 1918. So it took them 150 years to figure out how to combat our people. They couldn't do it. We were just making way too many advances. And so in 1918, with these lynchings, this is when they began to crawl back with some kind of plan to try to get back what they were losing, because they were losing fantastically. And remember that movie Killers of the Flower Moon was based in the 1920s, which was around this time too. So we do know the Federal Bureau of Investigations is involved with this for sure, because we know that they're involved with this MLK assassination. And in 2018, if I went into what the FBI was doing with James Comey in 2018, I will have no viewers left. So we'll save that for another day, because it's a long, complicated story of which I know every bit of it, because I spent 4 entire years researching what was going on with the government, and it is horrific. So what does this boil down to, right? So they can't take us out. That's obvious, because they tried. When they took out King, they figured, okay, we have taken out their king, so this should be it. They should be done. And then when we come back in 2018 with our chiefs, well, we'll just keep moving forward. Well, that didn't quite work, did it? Because the Chiefs won, and then the timer was reset, though, because it was time for the return of the daughter. So they got their timing off. They got away with this because it was not time for the mother to return. But by 2018, it was time for the mother to return. So they can't delay the mother's return or the daughter's return. They can't delay that. They have no influence over that. So now you have the mother and the daughter returning. seeing that, oh, wait a minute, they got us working with those people. Those not the right people. Their frequency is not right. Their vibration is not right. So what we have right here is a redo. Okay, 2024 is a redo. Now remember, Muhammad Ali was delayed for 4 years. So that's what we have. We have a literal redo of the 2020 Super Bowl, which was from the 2019 season. I got them backwards again. We have a literal redo of this Super Bowl. Let me look. Let me just make sure. Let me see. I can look right here on Wikipedia. 2020. Right. This was the Super Bowl happened in 2020, February the 2nd. It was in Miami. The Chiefs won 30-20. So it was a close game. It was a close game. But Kansas City scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. Oh, no, they didn't. They scored 21 points in the third quarter. Lord have mercy. Do that even sound right? I'm sorry. I'm not even about to go into all of this. So 2019, 1918, they made sure they got outside of this 50 years. So, but anyway, we're getting a redo in 2024. I know this video is too long. So we know that the cross is on April the 8th, which is really the 7th, as far as the closest Sunday that is to. What do I mean by that? What I mean is by the cross is that April the 8th is the day that we have the eclipse. Okay, so the closest Sunday to that is the 7th. And so we're saying that is the cross, the little Easter, the literal resurrection, right? So what I realize is that the Orthodox calendar gives us a 1 week preview on what's happening. So the scripture that goes along with this Sunday is what's going to show up next Sunday. Now, this is the scripture that's for this is a scripture for this Sunday, for today. This is the one I heard in church today. This is Matthew 25:14-30. I'm going to read it. I have my Orthodox Study Bible here, so it might read a little bit differently than your King James Version, okay? For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and delivered goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, each according to his own ability. And immediately he went on a journey. Then he who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them and made another 5 talents. And likewise he who had received 2 gained 2 more also. But he who had received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled the accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you delivered me 5 talents. Look, I have gained 5 more talents beside them. His Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. He also who had received 2 talents came back and said, Lord, you delivered to me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents beside them. His Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Then he who had received 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered. And I was afraid, and went and hid your talent in the ground. Look there, you have what is yours. But his Lord answered and said to him, you wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I have not scattered seed. So you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back with my own with interest. Therefore, take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talents. For everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So listen, the priest made a few really good points that I'm going to point out to y'all. The first point that he made, that a talent is known in your mind as a gold coin or something like that, right? But in this time, it could have meant all that you could carry, like your contract, like your spiritual contract, what you were sent on this planet to do. I'm adding that in, of course, but he said it could have been all the gold that you could carry. That's what it also could have meant. It didn't just mean one thing. It could have been all the gold that you can carry. He also pointed out that the one that took 5 to 10 and 2 to 4, they were both given rulership over many things. It didn't matter that one had 5 to 10 and the other one had 2 to 4. They were both given rulership over many things. It was the one who, now this is not the story, the parable of the talents, where the other servant was killed, because that's another version of this parable. But in this version, it's where the servant was just cast into the outer darkness. He was cast out of the presence of his Lord, where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And even if you think about this, he says he should have taken it to the talent to the bankers. He's like, you could have even given the talent to the bankers and see what the bankers would have brought me back some interest. So he was punished because he literally didn't do anything with what he was given. He didn't even try to do anything to increase what he was given. This is the situation you have right now. Everybody has been given something. If you have a good contract as far as your placements are concerned, an easy contract, or if you have a hard contract, it's up to you to take your contract, which is your birth chart, and do something with it and make something of your life, whatever you can make with it. Now, you have these people who were given great birth charts, who have had an easy life, these elites and whatnot. They didn't take their 5 and turn it to 10. No. They didn't do that. They took their great birth charts and they subtracted from them, actually. So it's going to be the inverse. And the people who was given 1, we may have 1 good placement in our whole birth chart. For real. I don't even have that really, in my opinion. I have a very aggressive birth chart. And so even with that, I took my 1 talent that I was given, because I was given something, and I'm doing something with it. So as a result, if you take something with your contract, if you take something with your life, with your talents, with your loves, with your hobbies, and you do something with it, you will be given in return. So this whole concept of voting, it's not because what have they done to you. This is a famous saying by JFK. As not what you have done for your government, but what your government can do for you. No, wait a minute. Ask not what your government has done for you, but what for... No. That's not... Hold on. What is JFK's statement? That's a good question. Why'd I even bring that up? Maybe they have his famous saying here. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on, I'm just looking for it. I'm still here. Congo. When you think of, let me read this about the Congo. The Congo came up in something one of the sisters sent to me. Decolonization and the Congo crisis. Between 1860 and 1863, 24 countries gained independence. As the process of decolonization continued, Kennedy set out to woo the leaders and the people of the quote-unquote third world, expanding economic aid and appointing his knowledgeable ambassadors. His administration established Food for Peace program and the Peace Corps to provide aid to developing countries. The Food for Peace program became a central element of American foreign policy and eventually helped many countries to develop their economies and become commercial import customers. During the election campaign, Kennedy attacked the Eisenhower administration for losing ground on the African continent and stressed that the U.S. should be on the side of anti-colonialism and self-determination. Kennedy considered the Congo crisis to be among the most important foreign policy issues facing his presidency, and he supported a UN operation that prevented the secession of Katanga. Mose Tshombe, leader of Katanga, declared its independence from the Congo, and the Soviet Union responded by sending weapons and technicians to underwrite their struggle. On October 2nd, 1962, Kennedy signed a United Nations bond issue bill to ensure U.S. assistance in financing UN peacekeeping operations in Congo and elsewhere. So this is, he was doing this with virtue, not with, malice like they do everything now when they give out money. Lord, they hold on. The Bay of Pigs, Operation Mongoose, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Oh Lord, man, they put this man through the ringer. Oh my gosh. They put this man through the ringer. Hold on. I'm trying to find it. Okay, here we go. He had a lot of programs to help with America, which is interesting. Because there was a recession, a bunch of stuff going on. So Kennedy is the one who signed the executive order prohibiting racial discrimination in federally supported housing, which is interesting. He was they dumped him in the middle of the civil rights movement. Good gracious. They had the March on Washington in 1963. So this is all before 1968. They were wiretapping, of course, women, crime, agriculture. Let's see what they say about Native Americans. Lord have mercy. I still didn't find that quote. The term Camelot is often used to describe his presidency, reflecting both the mythic grandeur according to Kennedy in death and the powerful nostalgia Americans feel for that era of American history. According to Richard Dean Burns and Joseph M. Syracuse, the most popular theme surrounding Kennedy's legacy and his replay of the legend of King Arthur and Camelot from medieval England. An interview following Kennedy's death, his widow Jacqueline mentioned his affection for the Broadway musical Camelot in closing lines. Don't let it be forgot that there was once a spot for a brief shining moment that was known as Camelot. Wow. Okay. Um yeah, JFK. I see now why people are saying that RFK Jr. is gonna come up in some of this stuff. He's tied in with all of this. Let's see if they'll actually let me see these quotes. Here we go. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. There we go. I had it right the first time. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country. The very least you can do, whether it works, whether it doesn't work, whether you think it's, helping or not helping, is to cast a vote. That's the very least you can do. Now, you don't have to do it. You could ignore me. I'm just a rambling person on the internet, whatever. But literally, it says in the scripture, for everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. From him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. So by us not doing the least that we could do, which is to cast a vote, even if we don't think it's going to be profitable, even that's going to be taken away from us, and that's basically what happened when people stopped participating in the system. Even that was taken away from them. Like, I didn't participate in midterm elections, and that is kind of like haunting at this point, because it's like, wow, they got this mayor elected here in Jacksonville, and the first thing she did was raise the taxes. So I'm like, oh God, at least I should have put my vote against raising the taxes. Good gracious. So I have to, this is also this is not like, oh, it's a battle for y'all. No, this is also a problem with me too, because I said I wasn't going to participate anymore. So I have to also be convinced that my vote is going to count, So this is not just me saying, something that I'm not also pondering. No, I have to be convinced that my vote is going to count, or I'm not willing to participate. And I said that all the way back in 2020 when I saw what they was doing with the votes, which is going to be for another video, because again, I lose all my viewers if I tell y'all everything I know at this exact moment, because I can see why, people got an issue with me. I'll be talking about a bunch of stuff. So, that is to say that there is a lot going on as far as, all of this is concerned. I hope I made any sense. So basically, to sum up, again, we're having a redo right now. We're going to see the parable of the talent show up on Sunday with this ritual that we're doing. And how do we know that? Because today it was announced that Mahomes, I don't know, Mahomes' father was charged with a DUI, which is basically hiding the talent. So that's literally the physical representation of their talent being hidden. The one talent that they have being hidden. That's a physical representation of that. I'm not really sure how else you can interpret that given this experience. And so we'll know what the energy is for next week. So next Sunday, I'll just give y'all a preview and we'll see if it shows up. Next Sunday, well, not for next Sunday, because this information is for next Sunday. For the Sunday after next, which is going to be the 18th, the scripture for next week is Matthew 15, 21 through 28. It's pretty short, so I'll read it to you. So this is for the following week. So So what I'm saying is the parable of the talents is going to show up all week. This is the theme of the week. It's going to culminate on Sunday. Sunday we step into a new energy. It's going to be about the next scripture. And that scripture is from Sunday forward to a week. And then Sunday forward to a week. So we're always, it's like if you go to church, you know, the Orthodox church, you get a preview of what the theme of the week is. So the theme of the week for next week is this 15 chapter 15 21 through 28, and that is about a Gentile with great faith. Listen to this. Then Jesus went out from there and departed to the region of Tyre and Sidon, and behold, a woman of Canaan came from that region and cried out to him, saying, have mercy on me, O Lord, son of David, my daughter is severely demon possessed. But he answered her not a word. And his disciples came and urged him, saying, send her away, for she cries out after us. But he answered and said, I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Then she came and worshipped him, saying, Lord, help me. But he answered and said, it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs. And she said, yes, Lord. Yet even the little dogs eat the crumbs which fall from their master's table. Then Jesus answered and said to her, O woman, great is your faith. Let it be to you as you desire. And her daughter was healed from that very hour. So what I, anticipate is going to happen from that during the next week, from the 18th to the 25th, or the 19th to the 25th, we're going to see a great increase in our people, and we're going to see, Gentiles with great faith stand up. What does that look like? Lord, if I can tell you what that means, I don't know, but we're going to see Gentiles with great faith stand up. And that should encourage us to also stand. So this week, we're going to see the parable of the talents play out. That will be from now, the 4th or the 5th until the 11th, and then from the 12th to the 18th, we'll see the Gentiles with great faith stand up. So this is why you need to know yourself. This is why you need to know your chart. This is why you need to figure out what your talents are, what you're sent here to do, what your contract is. Focus on that, especially right now. Get to really feel comfortable with that. As we keep going through this information, the answers will come if we ask the questions. And so I wasn't even looking for this. I didn't know any of this. Most of this I didn't know until just now. Especially this curse. Don't forget, there's a curse over them not letting us vote. To come say Sherman's curse says that they have to let us vote and count our vote honestly. If they don't count our vote honestly, they're cursed. And they know that. So what they do is they just brainwash Negroes so that they vote the way that they want them to. So just keep that in mind, that is the goal. They must count our vote honestly. If they don't count nobody else's vote honestly, they have to count our votes honestly. It's just that we've been voting for the wrong things. So when you vote for the wrong things, you don't get the desired result. You know what I mean? Like, you have to vote for the right things. You have to demand accountability. You must. And not know, okay, they showed up and handed out some turkeys. You know what I mean? Like, we haven't been demanding what we deserve as people, as quote unquote citizens of this country, as the spiritual leaders of this country. We have not been demanding what we're supposed to have. We have been letting everyone else speak for us. And if we don't speak, then that's what's going to continue. So, I had no idea this, fast was going to be about voting. I'm not trying to be involved in this stuff at all, but here we go. I have no control over this. This is just what, all I can do is do what I can do with my talents, man. I am not willing to be the servant who did not do what I was supposed to with my talents. So anybody else can do whatever they want. I know me. I'm not trying to be in that category. So I hope this video has been helpful. Another long one, but I hope you understand. Every 50 years we get a Jubilee. However, the Jubilee has been co-opted. This is why we haven't had it since 1918. They co-opted our Jubilee, and they inserted a blood ritual over top of it. And then they inserted a huge attention ritual over top of it, which must be more powerful than the blood ritual. And that's basically what they're trying to do again. They've done this twice unsuccessfully, but we're getting a do-over this year because we have the what did I call him? The greatest. They can't kill the greatest. They can only delay the greatest. And so that's what they tried to do. They tried to delay. They thought they killed the greatest, but they really only delayed it. You know, they killed the king, but they can't delay the greatest. The greatest being the daughter being the mother, the mother being the divine feminine. They can't kill. They could kill the divine masculine, but they can't kill the divine feminine because we are the ones who reproduce. They can't kill us. The things pass through the female bloodline. They can't kill us. We will always reproduce. That's what happens. When we're given one talent, we always turn. When we're given 5, we're always turning into 10. When we give 2, we always turn it into 4. Always. So they can't kill us. They can only delay us. And so the Most High, the Mother, is giving us an opportunity to intercede on our own behalf for this ritual that they planned for the Super Bowl, and we're going to get a do-over. And it's absolutely as a result of our torches and our daggers that we're going to be given peace. And our torches, our candles, and our daggers are our glass jars. We've been using our candles and we've been using our glass jars. And so that is something I'm going to definitely keep in my mind. That's why I wanted to make a video so I can refer back to it. It's a lot in this. I'm going to have to listen to this a few times to make sure I understand everything that came out of my mouth, because I have 2 pages of notes this time. But I had stuff that I said that was in my head, plus I read those other things. So it's a lot going on, everybody. But yeah, any comments, questions, concerns, please, of course, leave them below, and we'll, it may be we have to answer these real questions. The Most High, we're asking for the Most High to give us proof. If he shows up and gives us proof, what are we supposed to do? Ignore the proof? I mean, I guess you can ignore the proof if you want to, but I don't feel comfortable with that. So hey, I'm gonna do what I can do to follow on what I have to do, because it's what I was ordered to do. So shalom, everyone. Peace and blessings to you all, and we'll see you in the next video.